I could have your attention. We're just reconvening from our closed session. I'd ask the city clerk to read off the 3 items and any comment from our attorney.
Okay, item number 1, public employee performance evaluation, city manager. Number 2, public employee performance evaluation, city attorney. Number 3, conference with labor negotiator, agency negotiator Eddie Kreisberg, employee organizations Galt Police Officers Association and Galt Public Service Unit.
Mayor and council members, there's no reportable action on any of those 3 items. The City Council will be reconvening on item number 2, public employee performance evaluation, city attorney, at the end of the regular meeting.
Thank you. We will now open the regular City Council meeting at 7:02. If I could have the roll call, please.
Thank you. Council members Payne? Here. Claire?
Here.
Haynes?
Here.
Meredith?
Here.
Shelton?
Here. I'd like to ask everyone to rise for a silent prayer, moment of silence, and tonight we have flag salute by Cub Scout Pack 84. Scouts?
Color guard attention. Color guard forward march. Halt. Both colors. Please follow me in the Pledge of the Allegiance. Turn. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Color guard dismissed.
Thank you, Scout. Very good.
Was that good boy? Sorry, good boy?
That was good.
Yeah.
I can pull. Okay, next item is a video statement, please.
This meeting of the Galt City Council is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the Government Affairs channel on the Comcast and SureWest cable systems. Tonight's meeting can be seen on Channel 14 and will also be webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv this Friday and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Tonight's meeting can also be seen via live video streaming on the city's website at www.ci.galt.ca.us. A VHS copy is also available for checkout from any library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address council should fill out a speaker identification form and give it to the clerk. Please speak into the microphone when addressing council and state your name for the record.
Okay. At this time, do we have any changes, additions, or deletions in the agenda tonight?
I have none.
Council? None?
I don't have any.
Okay. Next item, presentations. We'll move into public comment.
Under Government Code Section 54954.3, members of the audience may address the council on any item of interest to the public or on any agenda item before or during consideration of the item. Please fill out a speaker sheet located on the table inside the entrances to the council chambers and forward the completed speaker sheet to the city clerk prior to addressing the council. We request that you state whether you live within the Galt city limits or the county area. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for each speaker. Al Baldwin?
Good evening, Council. Al Baldwin, a concerned citizen of Galt, a community of character. And we can say that big. Tonight, I'm bringing something to your attention that you had it before you maybe 2.5 years ago. And I've been approached by a person or persons and wanted to know what your feelings would be on it. And I said I would check into it. The railroad on 4th and C in Old Town. The property just west or east of it, you have a lease going on with the business over there, and you also have some nice grass where Parks and Rec has done quite a good job. And what they're asking, and what we're asking, I guess, would be, why can't we fix up the side just south of C Street and 4th? And I know you've done some negotiations with the railroad in the past, and you haven't gotten too good of results. It's part of not only the beautification part of Old Town, because we want to promote that, we want to get some businesses going in Galt, and you're doing a great job getting these buildings up, and they're looking great. But the parking seems to always come up. Where would my customers park? Where could people park? We have something going on there. And we even discussed about a farmer's market going down there one time, and where would they park? It would be all over the place. So what I'm suggesting is maybe we can pursue the railroad again, and it would have to be through our city manager, because he's so tactful and talented, that he could contact them again, since Jason wasn't here before when we were doing this, I don't think. Maybe he was coming in at the tail end of it. But I think it would be great for Old Town. I think it would make the city look great. I think business might give it a second look. And I know it's a challenge to get people to open up in town now, especially on the west side, and especially by the railroad. But if it's fixed up, it's a pretty good enticement. You could call it blighted if you want to. The railroad's done a good job of cleaning up weeds every time, and this would eliminate them doing it because we could take care of it. And maybe if they would authorize a lease, that would be great. I know the selling price would be too high because they do things a little differently than other people do with their property. But maybe we could lease it for 100 years or something. Maybe something could be worked out, negotiated, and that's the idea. And that's all I'm asking, if you would look into it again, and so I could report back that you were positive possibly towards something like this, helping Old Town, helping new business come in, helping the look, helping the environment. So it's something that you might want to look into one more time, and I would appreciate it. Others would appreciate it. The businesses for sure would appreciate it. In Old Town, you know, you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars fixing it up, and it's sort of sitting there without any interest being derived from it. So as a suggestion, I would love to help you do it if you want to. If not, please look into it and get back to me, or I'll come back to you. You know how I do. I prod you once in a while. And we'll ask how it's going. So if you could, I'd appreciate that.
This might be a good timing, too, to move forward to get something, maybe result on that, because with Galt plates coming in soon, it would be nice to see that we were able to kill two birds with one stone, maybe.
Well, it's just sitting there saying, help me. Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks, Al.
John Slaughterback?
John Slaughterback. I live in the city of Galt, and I'm not going to make this a habit. I just wanted to comment on the last council meeting. That they had something in there that I was kind of concerned about, and I'd like to say up front that I thank Barbara Payne and Andrew Meredith for their not voting to oust that resident that we're having a problem with before you found out more information about all the details. I'm not sure that everybody, I don't know that I know all the details, but I do know some that I'd like to share with you. Most of the penalties are on repeat offenders in Galt. And they're the citizens who can least afford these fines. The city should have at least bill monthly for residents who they know have a track record of repeat offenses, and make it mandatory for these ratepayers to pay monthly. It doesn't make sense to continually fine the same people over and over again. There's a procedure some cities use when a person is in default on their utilities, on their utility payments. These cities just add them to the property taxes. I know this for a fact because I had a rental that it applied to one time. I didn't know nothing about it until the end years when I went to pay my tax. Here I was paying for utilities for the whole year in Sacramento County. In other words, the procedure makes the property owners responsible for the utilities if someone goes in default. Mayor Sheldon, at last council meeting, you seemed to make a suggestion that the electric and gas at this home was turned off. That's not the case. They have electric and gas. What they don't have is city utilities, and that's water. It was also said that there's substandard living at this home. These substandard conditions were created by Galt's policies. I think the policies need to be changed a little bit. There's people that are mentally challenged, and we never know when they're going to go off and bomb in Texas. They had a bomber. They say that person didn't seem to be that kind of person. I can't see putting people in. This has been going on for 10 months. This sewer problem. So here I've got a whole sheet. It seems like every month you get something where somebody goes out and kills his employee or his workers at work, or in this case, he flew his plane. Luckily, he flew his plane into the RS building. But you can't do what you've done for 10 months to this individual if he's mentally challenged or she's mentally challenged. You're asking for problems doing this kind of thing. You need to come up with a better system. The SMUT has really got a little better system. They knew that there's a problem trying to correct bi-monthly. They collect in the city here. They bill every month. They know if they didn't bill every month, they'd have more problems. And SMUD and them, they give you some kind of a warning. In Galt, they give you a warning on your utility bill. I don't think there's any other warning. When that clock hits a certain time, that date, well, you're in default. The city has fines that totaled $46,000, and I have this here. I have a sheet here. $46,000 they've been fining these citizens, and they're repeats, and they're people that can't afford this. You need to come up with some system that works better than this. Now, what it's going to be, you need to get together. But you just can't continue to find people like this that total that kind of money. $46,000. I have a list here if somebody wants to see it. It's off of the Galt financial
Mr.
report.
Slaughterback, your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Slaughterback, real brief. The $46,000, are you saying that was a fine that was levied against one house?
Oh, no. These have been fines over a period of time. I'm not sure how many years, a period of time. But it's in the revenue report, the city's revenue report. $46,000 you've fined the citizens of Galt. And there needs to be a better system than that. And I've got the report here. I've got it all sewed together somewhere. But if you want to see the report, I'll be glad to show anybody the report. Here it is.
I just wanted to clarify that we're not talking $46,000 on one family because they're so far behind on their utility bill.
No, but something needs to be done about the problem, that's why I wanted to bring it up. You need to come up with a better system than what you got.
Thanks for bringing
Thank you,
it
John.
forward.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Any other speakers? Okay. Next item is information consent calendar, and I think we have 12.
Mhm.
Okay, I'd like for you to read those off, please.
Okay.
Take a drink of water first, yeah.
Okay, number one, approval of the minutes of the special and regular council meetings of February 16, 2010. Number two, approval of the City of Galt warrants. Number three, acceptance of the treasurer's report for the period ending January 2010. Number four, South County Services First Annual Car Show and Sock Hop, September 12, 2010. Number five, real estate acquisition, Werner et al., Central Galt Interchange Project. Number six, delegation of authority to certify rights of way. Number seven, Shop Local Committee Spring Extravaganza, March 27, 2010. Number eight, Memorial Day Service. Number nine, 15th Annual Strawberry Festival request, May 15th and 16th, 2010. Number 10, an ordinance repealing and replacing Chapter 5.50 of the Galt Municipal Code entitled Cable Television. Number 11, California High-Speed Rail Authority Memorandum of Understanding. And number 12, approval of appropriation of funds for reimbursement from the state emergency telephone number account.
Would you like to get another drink of water now? Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions on any of those items? And none of them were pulled, if not? Oh, okay. Sorry, thought you were gonna ask a bunch of questions. Motion's been made, is there a second?
Second.
And seconded. No other comments or questions? Call for the vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Passed. 5-0.
Next
We're
item.
ready.
Scheduled matters public hearing, 2009 Traffic Capital Improvement Program, Northeast Area and Capital Facilities fee updates.
Okay. So you want to make your report, then we'll open the meeting? Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. The next item before the council concerns the 2009 Traffic Capital Improvement Program, the Northeast Area, and Capital Facility fee updates. Recommendations are that the council conducts a public hearing to receive comments relating to these three programs. We're asking that you adopt resolutions adopting notice of exemption under CEQA, determining consistency with the General Plan 2030 and the Northeast Area Specific Plan, adopt the City of Galt 2009 TCIP, NEA, and CFF programs, and approve revision of the fee schedules for future development. Lastly, we're asking that you authorize the Finance Director to make budgetary transfers described in the staff report from Fund 31, Northeast Area, to Fund 11, Capital Facilities, concurrent with the fiscal year 9-10 budget closeout. We've made a brief presentation to present to you that summarizes the final report and the proposed fees. I'm going to start off with regards to CEQA. Staff has made a determination that the updating of the capital fee program is exempt from CEQA because the project creates a funding mechanism, but it does not involve a specific commitment to a project that may result in any significant impacts to the environment. So as such, the project is exempt from CEQA. With me tonight is Paul Cavanaugh, city engineer from my staff. You know Marty Inouye from Omni Means and Victor Urzek with Goodman Consultants. Back in 2009, January, we asked them to start the project to update these fee programs. They've been before council on January 5th, January 9th to bring progress reports and seek direction. We've now completed the direction that council gave us. We're back here to present the final report and have you actually adopt the fees. I have passed out 4 pages. It looks like this sheet. You all have it. These are minor changes to some of the tables within the report. We'll be going through them later to describe what the changes were, but I wanted to point those out to you. And with that, I'm going to pass it out to Marty and Victor to run the PowerPoint with the condolences to Marty because he learned he was going to do this about 2 minutes after he got here tonight. So he's going to do his usual bang-up job. Yeah. Marty.
Thank you, Greg. Mayor Shelton, members of the City Council, my name is Marty Inouye, principal of Omni Means and the project manager for this TCIP update. Here with me again is Victor Erzik from Goodwood Consulting that handled the non-traffic related fee updates. Before I get started, I just want to thank you again for the opportunity to be of service to the city on this project. This is the third update that we've had, and it's been enjoyable to work with your staff and yourselves as well as we move forward to keep you current on your fee programs. Just quickly, quick summary of where we, the purpose of the update, again, was to update not only the traffic, which is the TCIP 2006 fee, but also the 2006 reduced Northeast area traffic fee. Also to update the NEA Phase 2 fees for water, drainage, and landscaping. And then this time around, we didn't do this in 2006, but we also this time updated and consolidated the general government fee, which is where Victor came in and helped us tremendously. And as a part of that consolidation of the general government fee, we also added the new library facilities. The primary driver of updating this 2009 fees was your recent adoption in April of your general plan update that now expanded your sphere of influence and eventually your city limits, which added tremendously more land area to the city, as well as the need for further infrastructure, both roadways and other capital facilities. As a part of this update, we also included updates to the cost estimates of previous improvements, and then came up with costs for the new improvements that we needed to add. And then, with all of the change in land use as well as the change in cost for the infrastructure, we reallocated those costs to new development consistent with AB 1600. The noteworthy changes to the as a part of this update is, and I'll just try to go through these quickly, is that the fee, the unit per unit fees for almost all residential and commercial development will be reduced, and you will see that later in our presentation. In addition, on the transportation related projects, we, as a part of update, we looked at the uncompleted traffic related improvements in the NEA, and rather than trying to update the NEA fees separately as we have in the past, we have actually integrated them into the TCIP, but we've also worked through the credit issues of other whatever has been contributed by the Northeast area to payment of those transportation improvements, and primarily if you recall, back in 1989, there was a community facility district that was formed, and so those payment of those CFD costs early on also contributed to a reduced TCIP fee. So when we were trying to eliminate the fee, we were not able to do that to make sure that there was proper credit for the payments to the Melrose fees that were set up back in 1989. In addition, you'll see not only the standard fees for the single-family and non-residential fee rates, but we also added specific land uses to those fee rates, because as we worked through the implementation, primarily community development needed to charge the fee, and there were several different challenges for hotels and other types of uses that we thought it would be more expeditious to actually put the fee rate calculated off of this evaluation right into the fee rate, so there would be no question on some specific uses. In addition, we considered the uncompleted landscaping projects that were previously included in the NEA, and we know that there's going to be an upcoming park capital improvement program, and so what we've done is we've isolated those landscaping projects, the trail projects, and those costs for those incompleted projects will be transferred to the future park capital improvement program. In addition, the park fees will also be deferred to the park capital improvement program. So any portion of the NEA fees that were associated to trails and other park improvements will now be a part of the future park capital improvement program. Also, we discussed the library fees, the facilities. They have now been included in the general government fee, which affected the overall cost of that fee. And then the general government fees have been consolidated into one combined fee. Before, you had separate fees that were separately charged, and we'll go over what that total fee is now. Now, in terms of the 2009 TCIP fee, you can see the current fees and the proposed fees. You can see the additional land use categories that we actually use categories that we've added, and you can see overall, in comparison to the previous traffic fees, that they've all basically been reduced by about 17 to 18%.
Excuse me, Marty, is institutional, does that include schools, daycare centers?
Yes, it does. It includes schools, but public schools are not included in that. So it depends on the type of school. Also, as a part of the reduced traffic fee, the less city traffic fee credits, the credits are, again, related to the Mello-Roos or the CFD funds that were created by the formation of the Mello-Roos and that were paid to the traffic improvements. So you can see what the reduced traffic fees are in this category, in each of these categories. In terms of the balance of the Northeast area, there were you can see that there's substantial reductions for in the NEA or the Northeast Area Phase 2 fees, primarily because we've taken a number of things out. We've taken out some of the a number of projects like the drainage and landscaping projects. A number of them have been completed since 2006, and as well, we have taken the balance of the trails and other landscaping improvements and are moving them to the future park fee. So you can see that there's a substantial reduction from what the current fees are, what the differences are, and now we have a significantly reduced NEA fee. This is how the fees for the general government fall out. Again, we've added the library costs to these fees, so there's not a substantial reduction in these costs. In fact, because of the persons per household calculation, which was a little bit different, there's a slight increase in the multifamily. When you look at the total comparisons overall, though, single family and actually multifamily too, you can see that there's a substantial differential and a reduction in cost from the newly proposed fees to the current fees that you have now. So overall, we have gone through a significant reduction. Greg mentioned that you have this handout, and there's this is the resolution that will be a part of your what you'll be voting on. This is a summary of the same information that I have just presented. In addition, on page 2, we see a table A15. One of the things that, and this is in response to a question. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
On the change to the Exhibit A to the resolution, the one that's in your agenda packet has some very small footnotes. A one-time contemplation to charge these fees for residential additions. We've since decided not to do that, and so that we struck those footnotes. This will only be charged on initial units, and we will not be charging this on a addition, and that's the change on that particular table, or Exhibit A.
Okay, also on this table, and I didn't really discuss it before, was because we didn't affect this fee, is the fire protection service fee that's separately identified in this resolution that has also been established. Moving on, a question was raised relative to the allocation of the general government fee, and so table A15 has been added to the final report, which breaks down that total general government fee, which is the same numbers that you see in the tables that we've presented before. But now you can see the allocation for the City Hall portion at 19.15%, and what that of the 2867, you can see that now $549 is associated for to City Hall for single family, courtyard, police, park, courtyard, library, etc., which adds up to the total. And so that's just a table at the end of the appendix that has been added for clarification. Oops, I'm sorry.
Now add the last two pages, ES10 and page 45. Those were just changed to provide references to table A-15, which was not included.
And that concludes my portion of the presentation. I'd be happy, along with Victor, to answer any technical questions of the report. There's some policy issues that you may choose to direct to staff, but we're all available for
Questions
any
from
questions
council?
you may have.
Barbara, do you have anything?
You're fortunate. I had about 20 questions that I met with the city attorney prior to this council meeting, so I got my questions answered, and I'd be glad to share them with anyone if you're curious, but I won't bring all 20 of them up tonight.
Terrell, did you have a comment? Anything?
No, I am able to see your graphs here.
Okay.
On your table where you show the reductions, your table ES7, so those average deductions of 13%, 26%, 22%, those are pretty significant. And as I say, I have some qualms with some of the assumptions, as I've mentioned before, but I think they are the best we can do this far out, looking at the total general plan and for the build-out, so I'm comfortable with it.
Don?
My questions have been answered, that's all,
Okay.
so I'm good.
Andrew?
Yeah, I wanted an answer on the question of how we calculate trip generation in regards to retail space, retail commercial. Do we base it on how many people are going to be in a square foot at a particular time inside of a store? Is that how the calculation breaks down?
For retail, and the genesis of it's a really good question, because the trip generation for retail uses from a furniture store to a fast food restaurant, I mean, there's a huge differential. And so what we've tried to do is work with an average trip generation rate overall, because we don't know exactly, when there's a bare piece of ground, what the composition of that retail project might be. So a general shopping center square footage trip generation rate is typically used, and as an average, and we understand and we try to work with those overall averages. And so there's going to be some uses that are going to be generating a little bit more traffic and some that are a little less. It is, but overall, coming from a larger retail area that you have remaining in the order of the 5 to 10 to 15 acre sites that you have remaining. You have one across the street that's about 50 acres. We're trying to work with an average retail rate that makes sense.
Just so the community understands, let's say we've got a 100,000 square foot store and a 15,000 square foot store. Per square footage, are both of these stores going to pay the same amount of impact fees?
On a per square foot basis, yes.
That's where the problem lies for me in regards to the way that we're calculating these fees. I brought this up back in January when we talked about this before. We have an opportunity here as a city to decide whether or not we want to help generate growth with small family-owned businesses, or whether we just want to basically settle for the big box stores that locate here in this community. For me, I can't understand how we can possibly provide a nexus that shows that a 130,000 square foot store should pay the same per square footage impact fees as a 15,000 square foot store that's going to have much less customer volume and traffic generation. It just does not make sense to me.
what's very interesting is that often, and from a shopping, and if we just use shopping center, for example, and that's not specific to any particular use, as the square footage of the shopping center gets larger, actually the trip generation rate goes down. So when we started looking at the question that you had raised previously, and we did take it to heart, and we worked with staff on this and said, gee, we understand what the goal is, but if we use standard methodologies and trip generation information that we have from the Institute of Transportation Engineers and other types of sources like that, as the square footage, as the parcels get larger, and as the square footage in total get larger, for example, between the 15,000 to the 100,000 square feet, the actual trip rate often gets starts reducing because of it's not that the volume of traffic reduces. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the trip rate actually reduces with the increased size of the center.
Well, let's consider two examples. We've got a Tractor Supply store that's already located in this community, and I don't remember what the square footage is on that store, but they sell a lot of big-ticket items at that store. They rely less on people flowing through the doors, and they rely more on actually selling some of the big-ticket items. Now, comparing that to a general merchandise store that sells an array of goods that vary in prices, it doesn't seem that we could actually provide a nexus that says that that general merchandise store is going to generate less trips than the store that's going after the big ticket items.
And we, that is really, I appreciate your example, but we could also then point to, the supermarket or the Rite Aid that's on the corner of the same shopping center that the Tractor Supply store is. It gets down to the specific use, and what we're trying to do is, because we don't know exactly the use that's going to be on every single site, we're left with a need to go with some type of average. And when we looked at averages, the historically and empirically tested, as the centers actually got larger, the trip generation rates actually reduced. And that's what, so at this stage, what we chose to do is not to, certainly we didn't want to go contrary to your interest, but we also felt that, so the most reasonable approach was to use that average under all conditions, except for the specific uses that we have identified that have been in fact added, and that was related to the I went the wrong direction here, which included hotel motel, which would have been in a retail and that, I guess that was the only other one. Religious center would have fallen under institution, and hospital would have been separate, and mini warehouse would have been separate. But those are the things that we are trying to look at, and so we had a difficult time looking at larger users having greater trip generation rates. Again, we're talking about rates. We're not talking about generation. There's certainly more traffic being generated from a larger project, but the rate associated to that actually reduces.
Well, what I remember being told in January was that it would be nearly impossible to create a nexus that would allow us to structure the fees differently for a big box store versus a small retail. And it doesn't seem to me that it's that difficult to create a nexus to allow us to structure fees that way. I mean, I was obviously disappointed that it wasn't even addressed in the final product that we're presented with today.
All I can assure you, there was much thought on how we could address that.
Well, the community deserves to see more than just thought that doesn't appear on a paper. They deserve to see why we can't take a particular course of action. And if it's not included in the presentation that we're given, then there's no justification behind just completely eliminating the idea.
We didn't the issue was, as the use, I mean, we could have produced a report that said, looked at average trip generation rates on a per square foot basis, okay? And as the centers got larger, again, it's irrespective of use. We're trying to deal with you know, the whole city and your commercially zoned property. As the square footages got or the acreage of the site got larger and the use got larger, trip generation rates fell. They did not go up.
Well, why couldn't we also evaluate what the end use would be as well?
There would be that would be again consistent. The larger the shopping center, the less of a combination of uses. Typically, the average rate fell.
I could jump in. Part of the problem that we have is we're working with averages and unknowns. We have to look across the board at what might happen. And the issue with, even in the same center, Tractor Supply and Rite Aid are different businesses. They generate different traffic per square foot for each of those two stores. These are the example. If we knew exactly what was going to go in every certain location, then we could come up with the exact fee schedules for each and every retail development. Unfortunately, we can't. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of uses that we have to put into some manageable program that we can say, okay, these businesses fall into this category. And then that's the average that we collect the fee with. If we knew everybody was going to be on the upper end or the lower end, we can make those adjustments. I was the one that told you that it is almost impossible because there might be a way if we knew exactly what was going to go in. And we brought this back to council at the last meeting and explained the difficulty we were having trying to find within established public sources that was defendable, that nexus. We just don't believe that it exists on a big scale basis. One thing we have done in this report, though, is we have allowed within this fee schedule for a process by which an individual user could come in and request a specific look at their particular usage to adjust those fees. Once we know the particulars, someone comes in and says, okay, I'm only relying on X number. I'm only going to have 5 customers. Each one's going to spend $500,000 and have less traffic. Then we can allow those on a specific case-by-case basis. And presented to council tonight, the program does allow for that to happen. Other than addressing it on a case-by-case basis, we don't believe that there is any nexus to say anybody over a certain square footage or under gets a certain discount. You just can't do that across the board for everybody.
I think I understand that, because we don't know what's going to go in on that piece of ground. We can't tie it to, you know, what's going to be sold or what's going to be there. If we knew in advance that we were going to have a certain business there, then we could maybe tie it to the type of business it is.
Exactly.
But you're looking at a piece of raw ground.
So for Councilman Meredith's thought on that 15,000 square foot center, if the specific uses were, you know, the insurance office, the you know, the bakery, and all those, we could take that 15,000 square feet of uses, and we can calculate based on the uses that are in that center, and calculate a separate generation and a separate fee that's associated to that 15,000 square feet. Some cities, and I'm just telling you, some cities are willing to do that. Some cities are saying, well, those may be the uses that occur or that are going in, but we don't know that those uses will remain. And what we're trying to do is work with averages because they're associated with the potential impact to our city street system in terms of what is paid and what you know, what fee is paid for the potential impact that site could generate. So there's different philosophies. Some agencies like to deal with the averages. Some are willing to work, and it sounds like this city may be willing, Galt may be willing to work on specifics. And we do have, as Greg indicated, a procedure that can challenge the rates that we have. So if there are specific uses that come in, they're substantially lower than the rates that we have, there's an accommodation for that.
Can you just explain the challenge procedure for the community, Greg?
What we're proposing is that the someone who's developing a use that they believe would generate lesser traffic impact can petition the city to do that challenge. There's a fee that they would pay that allows the city to undertake the study for their specific development. And typically there would be a traffic engineer or a planner or someone involved who had expertise in that type of use in estimating traffic volumes. They would then do the research and present the case to the city that our development is different. We are less. We're not the average whatever store it is, and perhaps show us a business plan or something like that that would show and demonstrate that they are different and they are less than the traffic. No one ever comes in and argues, I'm going to pay, I have more traffic, I'm going to pay more money. It's always on the downside. That's understandable. We would then be able to take that, have it reviewed, and if we felt it was appropriate, then come up and address a separate fee. If staff turned that down the first time, there's a secondary appeal process to council. There are costs associated with that that are included in the report, and that is in order to recover the city's costs for that specific application. Because right now, we've had in the past a lot of applicants that come in and they think that everybody thinks their case is special. We try to work with them, but we're spending a significant amount of staff time and have Marty look into it to try to look at why this is something that's different. And we have to follow the certain rules for AB 1600 to make sure we have that nexus and make an exception as to why this particular development is different than every other one that might come in, be it a smog shop, a restaurant, a supermarket, or whatever.
What about the city's ability to contest the fact that the average rate structure applied to a specific project is actually insufficient in addressing the impacts of that particular project?
What we're saying by this program is on the average, the rates that the fees that are paid are sufficient to address that specific input. It would go on the opposite side. If there was an issue where we felt that there was some specific development that fell outside of this, then I believe we do have the capacity to come back and look at something beyond what is normal. If they had some other use that pushed them way outside of the envelope, I would defer a bit more of this to the city attorney.
Well, since the city attorney is getting ready to weigh in, one of the things that I've been contemplating in regards to helping push the agenda that I want to push here in relation to helping generate small businesses and making that the cornerstone of what we're trying to do commercially for the community, I contemplated putting language as an amendment to our big box ordinance that actually requires an evaluation of the impact fees relative to a project that reaches that 130,000 square foot criteria that's spelled out in the big box ordinance. So I'd be interested to hear what the city attorney thought about using that methodology.
Well, whenever a project comes forward, if a particular project, whether it's residential or commercial, is going to generate specific project-related impacts that are not addressed through a particular city fee program, the city has the authority to impose conditions on that particular project to require them to mitigate the burdens caused by that development. And so a lot of the same criteria that are applied within the impact fee program would be relevant to that kind of a showing on a particular condition. Essentially, we'd need to be able to tie the burden to the particular project, know what the cost of remedying that burden was, and then impose that financial or physical obligation on the project. So there is a mechanism to deal with project-specific impacts that are beyond the scope of your impact fee programs.
Does it make it less legally defensible, though, when you have an adopted fee structure that the city attempts to deviate from in regards to one specific project?
I don't know that it makes it less legally defensible, but there would need to be impacts or infrastructure that was required of that project outside of the scope of your fee programs. So, for example, if if a project is coming forward and it's going to require some improvements in your transportation infrastructure, and all of those improvements are part of an adopted fee program, then it would be very difficult to require that developer to do anything other than pay the adopted fee. But if there was transportation improvements that were required of that project outside of the scope of your program, then it would certainly be appropriate to require that project to bear the cost of those additional infrastructure improvements.
So would it make more legal sense? I guess this is what I'm asking.
Mm-hmm.
From a legal standpoint, does it protect the city more to, if that's the intent, that we want to look at projects specifically that we think might not be applicable under this fee structure? Would it make sense to lump them under the big box ordinance rather than just taking a rogue move to pull a project out and basically have the city make a collaborative finding that we felt that the impact fees didn't address the actual impacts of the project?
Well, I think that if there was a particular category of projects that it was unable for the city was unable to predict reliably what the costs, what the impact of that project would be, and the mitigation costs were, then I think in that situation it would be appropriate to carve them out from your fee program and address it on a case-by-case basis. But what I've heard the engineers say this evening is that they have not been able to identify any reasonable basis to differentiate between, in this case, the big box retail and other retail, and they can in fact predict with a degree of reliability what the impacts of those projects are, and hence they can be built within or included within the fee program to the point that they would be appropriately mitigating their impact on a per square foot basis. So it does. I guess in summary is that I don't. If the engineers say this is a type of use that's outside the realm of our predictability, then I think it would be appropriate to carve it out. But that's not what I'm hearing this evening.
Well, there's all kinds of different studies on the internet that show varying degrees of impacts relative to specific types of big box stores. So I wouldn't just make a generalized statement that big box stores generate less than smaller retail spaces do. I think a lot of the times you're correct, but there are instances where that theory just doesn't hold water. So what I want to make sure from the community standpoint is that when a big box store comes into the city, they mitigate the impacts that they create themselves. There are other cities here in this region that have experienced similar types of developments locating in the community that didn't necessarily cover the impacts that they created when they located in the city. So to prevent that from happening here in the community, I really think the city of Galt needs to find a way to provide a protection. And I don't see that in the fee structure that we're presented with tonight.
I'd just like to reiterate, again, we're talking the differences between rates and absolute volumes. I'm not saying, we want to make it clear that the actual rate, the actual volume of traffic that may generate from a 15,000 square foot center will be substantially less than a 100,000 square foot center. But it's the amount of rate per square foot that actually is very similar.
Thank you.
Okay, was there any other questions from council? Because I'll need to go into an open public meeting too. Oh, I'm sorry, was there?
I have a comment.
Okay,
If
sure.
The time you want
If
it.
you want it, do it.
This also is in regards to the challenge. The way I understand that is that if there is not a category for a certain business, let's say then staff will come up with a fee based on whatever they decide to. And if that business feels it's not fair, then if they want to challenge it, because we don't have a category specifically identifying their business, then they will have to pay over $2,200 in an unrefundable fee to challenge that. And I personally have a problem with that. If we don't have, and I realize it's difficult to have a category for everything, but I don't think that a business should be penalized because we don't. I think they should have the right to, to question it without paying $2,200. And that's my comment on one of the provisions that are in here. I think that's more of a policy issue than it is something, Marty, that you have to deal with.
Okay. There's no other comments by council members. I'll open the public meeting, public hearing. This is the opportunity for any members of the audience to come up to the podium if you would like to speak on this item. If there are none, I will close the public hearing. We've heard the recommendation from staff. I believe we're at a point now where is there a motion on the floor?
Yeah, I would make a recommendation. We accept the staff's proposal, and in making that recommendation, while I think I get the gist of what Andrew's concerns for protection and making sure we mitigate, I think when doing something this large of nature, we do have to rely, as our consultants have told us, on the average effect, if you will, of the policies we're about to adopt, realizing that there will be a bell curve effect. There'll be outriders, there'll be the left and right-hand side, but on the average, we're going to collect all the fees that are going to be necessary for those mitigations. And at this point, in both our city's current state and the economy of the nation, I'm more concerned about not having anyone want to come to town with a business than worrying about that one that might not quite fit the model we're putting out there. Having been in retail management and manufacturing management, I've traveled to 13 different states, visited over 20 cities, and been that lead group who looks at local ordinances, impact fees, and quite often we have stayed away from a location that seemed to have so many impediments to attracting a business to a city that we just didn't go further with the negotiation. And so I'm more interested in making our town attractive to those people who are trying to cite new businesses and bring revenue and economy to our town. And so I think this is the best approach at this point.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second? Second time. Motion's been made. Is there a second? I'll call the third and last time. If not, I'll make the motion. I'll second the motion.
Mr. Mayor, just as a point of clarification,
Sure.
there's actually two resolutions in your packet this evening that you're voting on.
So
One relates to the, I think is it the traffic fees in one, and then the governmental in the other one, Greg? The only reason I wanted to call it to your attention that there was two separate ones is it's within the council's discretion to take each resolution independently if some of the concerns that were expressed this evening might not carry over to both resolutions.
Okay.
So, Greg, could you clarify which fees are within each of the two resolutions?
The first resolution adopts the notice of exemption for CEQA determines consistency with the general plan and this Northeast specific area, and adopts the programs themselves.
Okay.
It's the second resolution that actually adopts the fee schedules.
Oh, okay, all right.
Let me ask the question then. I am not supporting this because of the challenge paragraph that's in here. Is that part of what you're wanting to be passed with this vote?
That would be part of the first, again, I defer, I guess it's kind of part of both. It's part of the program, but also it's a part of the fee. I would say it's probably closer to the part of the first one, which is part of the program.
Either way, I'm not going to support it.
Okay. Barbara, if I were to amend my motion to either lessen or remove the challenge fee, would you be willing to support the motion?
I would be.
And given that, would you like to offer a friendly amendment to my motion as to how you would like that fee handled? Do you want it reduced or eliminated?
Can I just make a comment really quick about that?
Sure.
That comment. The fear or the concern by staff is if that fee is totally eliminated, that there's no impediment for people challenging it. And so you could have challenges on every single one just because what do they have to lose? And so typically at least you have some type of thing that they realize that there is significant staff time as well as consultant time involved in reviewing this, and so they can't just, because they feel like it, submit a challenge, that they at least have some investment in that challenge. Now certainly you can give consideration to reducing that or eliminating, but that's just one of staff's concerns.
The pain I have with that is because we don't have a category. It's not that, you know, if we have a category and a fee for that category, that the people would challenge it and have to pay to do so. I'm saying if we don't have a category that addresses it, I don't feel that it's right that we should make someone pay $2,200 to get that clarified or to challenge it.
Well, in that spirit, would you be willing to cut it in half? Because again, as I made my comments earlier, I think I'm concerned we're focused so much on the unique specifics, we're missing a chance to pass a good policy for the majority. Would you support putting the fee at half of that? It would still be enough that it wouldn't be abused, but it would help cover the cost of those challenges.
What I would like to see is if the fee is changed, if staff comes up with a fee and the business feels that it's unreasonable, and after it's been reviewed that we agree with the business, then the fee could be refunded. Does that make sense?
Yep. In other words, you would give staff and the city manager flexibility if they found in the plaintiff's case, so to speak, to remunerate them some of that fee.
Or if it came to the council that the fee could be refunded.
Okay. I'd be curious how the city manager and city attorney feel about that.
Yeah, we're going to have to hear from the city attorney too.
It's certainly within the council's discretion to change the program to provide either of those scenarios, either that the fee is in fact refunded in the event that it's determined that the fee is adjusted in the applicant's favor, or you can make it insert a provision that provides that the applicant can request a fee waiver or fee refund directly from the city council. So either of those options work from a legal standpoint.
Barbara, are you okay with incorporating that?
I am.
Okay, then I would amend my motion to include that option with you as a friendly amendment to it.
Do you want to speak?
And then I would ask if there is now a second to the
Policy
motion before.
decision by the council. I think staff's already given its recommendation, so it's up to the council.
So my amendment would be that if it was decided in favor of the applicant, that the fee could be refunded. It's simple.
At either the city manager level or the city council level.
Yes.
I'll amend my motion. I think at this time someone needs to read the motion back.
Okay.
Sorry, Liz.
Yeah. Okay. you moved staff recommendation, which I can read, to conduct a public hearing to adopt the resolutions. I can read that if you'd like, and authorize the finance director to make a budgetary transfer, and also to add that the fee would be refunded if the business prevails in an appeal
I think that covers
at
it.
the city manager or city council level.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Any further discussion? None? Call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
I appreciate your concerns, Barbara, and I agree with what you're saying, but at the same time, I also have concerns about the mitigation of impacts that some particular businesses might have on others. I can't support this tonight. So my answer is no.
No.
No. Yes. Pass, 3-2. Thank you. Good questions, good dialogue. Thank you, staff.
Okay, we move on to regular calendar, city manager's office, California Public Employees Retirement System, 2 years additional service credit, contract amendment, and program approval.
Paula.
Okay, the recommendation before you, Liz just read. This recommendation is an effort to help reduce the general fund deficit and hopefully minimize the need for staff layoffs. This contract amendment provides for an incentive for employees in certain job classifications to retire within a specific time period. This is done by offering the incentive and by not filling the positions immediately, which means the city would realize savings in both salary and benefits. The contract amendment allows for the city to provide 2 years of additional service credit to employees in specific specific job classifications during a certain time frame. The benefit can be offered on an as-needed basis once the contract has been amended. Initially, the city is looking at offering this retirement period of April 1st through June 30th to the positions of accounting assistant, administrative assistant, deputy city clerk, and police sergeant. The estimated savings per year is $394,000, and the cost is approximately $154,000 to be amortized over 20 years, beginning July 2012. And this is the city pays for this through their employer rate for CalPERS. Again, that would be we would see that first July in 2012. The alternatives to the recommendation would be to allow the introduction of the contract amendment so the city can make the amendment, but deny the request for the retirement plan beginning April 1st, or to not accept the recommendation in its total. Are there any questions?
Any comments from council? Barbara?
None?
Do we have reason to believe that some of the employees will actually take this opportunity?
Yes, anywhere from 3 to 4 employees.
Okay. Thank you.
Darrell, didn't want to leave you out.
Nope, I'm fine.
Okay.
I move to approve staff's recommendation.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further comments or
I'd like to make a comment.
discussion?
I'm
Sure.
glad that we're making this effort to do that. It will hopefully prevent any layoffs somewhere down the line, but I'm hoping maybe more than 4 will take this opportunity and take us up on it. I only wish other agencies were doing the same, because I think it's a great savings. So I'm glad that we're doing it sooner than later. So, thank you.
Very good. Okay. We'll call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Passed, 5-0. Culture and Recreation Department.
Sports facilities rental agreement, rental fees, and light usage fees.
Good evening. Before you tonight is an amendment to our current fees and charges at the sports complex facility. Currently, we charge by the number of teams, and that rate is from $45 to $55 per team. Staff is recommending that we go with a flat rate of $1,000 per day from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., and then on a half-day rate. Staff feels that this is an appropriate way of, say, conducting or renting the facility to be similar to the Littleton Center, so on. And as you can see in the staff report, from other public agencies, some charge by the number of games played. That's the city of Lodi. Some charge by the hour, and then also, again, some charge by the number of teams. But staff feels very confident that to establish a flat fee would be the best interest of the community. Also recommended, and we have never done it historically, is to charge youth organizations for light usage. Other agencies do charge the youth organizations besides light usage is field usage. At this time, I'm not recommending that we charge for field usage because of the service they provide to our youth, our organization, but I think that the city should get reimbursed for the light usage that they do use at the various facilities, Harvey Park, Veterans, and the community park.
Comments from council?
I have a couple.
Barbara?
I'm glad to see that we are providing for the local teams and local youth their ability to use the fields without cost other than for the lights. But I do wonder, one of the things when you have tournaments that is good for the city is that when people come here from out of town, they buy gasoline, they buy food, and I'm wondering if this $1,000 is going to, discourage some of the tournaments from occurring here.
Just to give you, say, a hypothetical situation, the major tournaments are girls softball. Those are the majority of your tournaments that are conducted throughout the area. You do have men's slow pitch, men's fast pitch, but the majority are girls softball. They use typically on a Saturday is a round robin format where you're guaranteed 3 games on Saturday, and then you go into the consolation or a single elimination tournament on Sunday. So typically they're 2 days. They will charge for teams to participate from $350 to $450 per team, because the selling point is you got a 4-game guarantee, and that's a selling point in conducting tournaments. So if you use that analogy of, say, $350, go with low ball, how many teams do you need to do a tournament to, say, pay for the $1,000 rental fee? You need 4, basically, and that will pay for a 1-day tournament in that capacity. Again, the tournament director would have costs for umpires and awards, but from of just getting a minimum of 4 teams, you would cover your $1,000 rental fee at the complex.
But how would we compare to other cities?
Well,
it's hard because they have different ways of
yeah, like City of Lodi, they charge by the number of games. It's just, they do it, some charge by the hour. It's just different how other agencies rent their facilities out.
Boyce, maybe you can compare the new revised fees to the current fees in Galt. Just give an example of a girls softball tournament this summer, how much we would have charged, or we did charge over the old fee system versus what we might charge under the new fee system.
Well, I'll go back to, say, if you have a 16 or a 16 tournament, you would charge, say, if it's out of town, 6 times 55, or say $50. If you're a nonprofit, that would be a $300 fee for the number of teams that you do have. But if you look at your cost, your hard costs that we do have, which is shown there up in the upper corner of your chart, supervision, cleanup, etc.
That's still, I'm still not getting what I want. I just want to know.
What's the size of a normal tournament that we had this last summer? How many teams?
8 to 12 teams. I mean, yeah,
teams.
Because it will also vary of age limits. You have 10 and unders, 12 and unders, 14 and unders, and everything of that nature.
This isn't designed as a fee increase. It's designed as a simpler, better way of collecting the fees, not instead of based on teams and games. It's based on usage of the facilities. And so in many of our tournaments, this is actually be lower fees for the tournaments than what we currently have.
Let me just simply ask you this. Have you discussed it with any of the people that are are currently putting tournaments on here, and what was their reaction?
I'll turn that over to Armando.
We have not been in contact with anybody who's rented the facility in the past. I have contacted 4 different organizations and asked how they basically run their tournament fees. Compared them, if they charge by the hour, a typical game is an hour and a half, I would take that rate an hour and divide it by half, add it together, and try and figure out where we are, if we're in the ballpark of what they would rent their facility for. It will be cheaper for the bigger tournaments, but we do have a hard cost of almost $600 that we're trying to get back. So on a full day tournament, we would make $400 with $600 hard cost.
Well, if we find out that we're scaring off all of our business, we could always come back and change it, right? If it becomes a problem.
Yeah, that's true.
And you're not anticipating any impact on the participation as a result of the change in fees?
We're hoping to increase the participation.
The hard cost that you mentioned, was there a cost analysis done that established what the hard cost actually is? Where did we get the hard cost figures?
Okay.
Field prep was given by the park superintendent of a cost of $65 to prep all 3 fields. Supervision, we have to have a supervisor on site to look out for the interest of the city, to be there all day, be in charge of the facility. That's a cost of $250 for an all-day tournament. We're charging for cleanup, which is $25, cashier at the concession stand, and just a minimal $50 administrative cost to put through the paperwork.
Okay. And the hard costs are all current to date, what it cost us today?
Correct.
Okay.
And if you want to get real technical, you could say, well, we mow the lawn, but we mow the lawn during the week for our league games. There's watering and everything, so there are some, say, indirect costs.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments from council? If none, is there a motion on the floor?
I'll move to accept staff's recommendation.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Passed. 5-0. Public Works Department.
Live Oak Pump Station and Force Main Project.
This is an update information.
Good evening again. The next item for council's consideration is an informational item regarding the Live Oak Pump Station and Lift and Force Main project. We're asking the council to receive the update, solicit public comment, and providing direction as deemed appropriate to staff. With me tonight, on my left, is Lisa Sanders, Senior Civil Engineer in my water wastewater projects, Brian Davis, Project Manager with Kennedy Jenks, and Tracy Mueller, Project Engineer with Kennedy Jenks. Hard to believe, back in April 2008, we awarded a contract with Kennedy Jenks to start the design for this project. Once we got started, we then realized the connections between this project and the master plan, and so we delayed this project until the master plan process could catch up. So we were all designing to the same design flows, and we could incorporate what they were doing with what was happening with the master plans. They've now completed their preliminary design report and has recommendations for the selection of the alternative alignment for the new force main, as well as locations for the pump stations. We'll make a brief presentation describing some of the work we've done and the selection criteria, after which we'll be happy to answer any questions. With that, I'll turn it over to Brian Davis with Kennedy Jenks.
Thank you, Greg. As mentioned, my name is Brian Davis, and with me is Tracy Mueller of Kennedy Jenks. And on behalf of Kennedy Jenks to the council, I would like to thank the council and the city staff for the opportunity to practice our trade and the desired benefit of improving sewer service here in Galt. The purpose of this presentation, we'd like to do three things. One is we would like to review the project drivers. What is it back in 2008 that made the council think that this project needed to go forward? I would like to summarize the results of our pre-design report and present a possible schedule for the implementation of this project. Okay, the first driver of all was the reliability and redundancy of this station. And as the council, I'm sure, is aware, this station essentially sends all of the city's wastewater to the wastewater treatment plant. And a failure at this station would likely cause a sanitary sewer overspill and be quite a problem in the city's utilities. Also, there's site security is a concern. As you can see from our picture, we've got the county road here and the railroad on the other side. It's in a tight spot. It's open to either vandalism, possible stray car could damage the improvements. The security is also a driver of this project. Any overflow or any failure of this station puts the city in danger of or in risk of having a violation of sewer spill overflow. So we'd like to minimize the city's risk of sanitary sewer overflows. And of course, whenever we're looking at doing something new with an improvement, we want to make sure that we're building for the 20-year life of the improvement and not just the problems in front of us. So there's an aspect of this project that will accommodate future growth. In deciding what's important in selecting a site for the lift station and a site for the pump station and an alignment for the pipeline, we looked at quite a few different criteria. These were the ones we decided most important for this project. Constructability, which is directly related to cost, the requirement of easement and property acquisition, permits, security as mentioned before, ease of operation, expansion, odor control, and also the pairing of a force main and a pump station alternative, meaning that a selected pipeline alignment could have an effect on the selection of a pump station site. This is a busy map, of course, because there's a lot of things going on here west of Galt. I'd like to first locate. Here is the city's wastewater treatment plant. Okay, that's our target delivery location. The existing Live Oak pump station is here at the corner of Live Oak and McFarland Street, and the existing force main follows the railroad down to nearly the wastewater site, and then goes on to the city's property and delivers that flow to the wastewater treatment plant. At Kennedy Jenks, we looked at three main alternatives for where we should route the pipeline. The first was essentially just following the existing pipeline, building a new pipeline next to it. The second was to follow Live Oak to the city's material storage site, the city property, and then go directly north along Midway Avenue. The third alternative is a longer alternative, comes out to Christensen Road. The reason we added that alternative is it gives us an opportunity to examine an alternative that really requires minimal easements or just about entirely in public land as far as that pipeline alternative. I'd like to talk just a little bit about those three items. Some of the pipeline alignments have spots we want to watch out for. They're crossings of Dead Man's Gulch, clearance of some existing wells in the area. We're paying specific attention to the McGee Correctional Facility as they have their own lift station that added into the city's force main for delivery to the site. In each alternative, we looked at the pros and cons. For example, in alternative one, we found that along the existing alignment, there's a real tight spot. We can't really get between the city's current pipeline within the right-of-way within the railroad right-of-way, and on the other side, we're forced to cross essentially what's backyards now, and there's an impressive amount of easements to be gathered. So we did not recommend alternative one. Alternative two has going directly north along Midway. There's one waterway crossing, but on the whole, it looked like the better of the alternatives. And alternative three provided us a kind of a backdrop of where we could place the pipeline, as I mentioned before, without easements, but of course was the most expensive alternative, going all the way down to Christensen Road and then back up to the city's wastewater treatment plant site. The recommended alternative of along Live Oak and then north on Midway Avenue requires a 30-inch gravity sewer pipeline to gather the flow that would be gathered at McFarland and Live Oak and take it to the new pump station location, and then a 24-inch diameter PVC force main from the pump station to the city's wastewater treatment plant. It includes approximately 1,200 linear feet of new pipeline. There's 3 private easements to cross. They're all on agricultural land, and there is the requirement of the County of Sacramento encroachment permit that would be required in any of the 3 options. This map is put here in the report to highlight the 3 pump station location alternatives that we examined. There's a pump station location essentially next to the existing pump station on McFarland and Live Oak, the location of a pump station for alternative 2 that places those improvements at the city's material storage site, and a third alternative examine the location of a pump station at the MCF property here near Twin Cities and Midway. One thing I'll add is that in looking at the pump station alternative here at the MCF property, we took another look and said, well, that's pretty close to the plant. What if we ran a gravity pipeline all the way to the plant and just pumped it there? And what we found is that it's about an additional $3 million cost to the city. And while there are some definite benefits of having a gravity pipeline take it completely to the plant, in the estimation of the city staff and with our recommendations, is it did not warrant the additional $3 million that those improvements would cost. Near McFarland, or near the existing lift station's pump station site, highest cost because for property procurement, as the city does not own property in the area. There is easy access for O&M, but we're still in the same location. We're out there kind of on McFarland Road and somewhat exposed, and the future expandability may or may not be there depending on how much property the city would be able to purchase in the area. The city's material storage site offers quite a bit of land. It seems to be at a fairly safe location, and it's, as mentioned, it's already owned by the city. In the northeast corner of the MCF, there's a little bit of question there as far as how much land would be made available at the correctional facility site. Also, as mentioned, gravity pipeline costs quite a bit more than force main pipeline, and there is an additional cost to placing the pump station that much closer to the wastewater treatment facility. These facts taken into consideration give us the preferred Live Oak pump station alternative site as placing that pump station on the city's material storage site, and making all of the city's improvements there within the city property where there's land available to adequately protect the improvements and to expand should be required in the future. At the site, we anticipate for redundancy placing an outdoor diesel generator with sound attenuation to give us the backup should the power source be the failure of the lift station. The punchline, I guess, of what this costs, the city's proposed construction budget for these improvements is that the lift station at the material storage site with the ancillary pipelines required for that location is $2.8 million. The 24-inch pipeline that would essentially follow the alignment of Midway up to the wastewater treatment site is at $3 million, placing the entire project at $5,884,000. We've listed here on the bottom rehabilitation of the existing 16-inch force main. And what this is our attempt with a city staff recommendation to provide one extra level of reliability to these improvements. And that is, you've got a 16-inch force main in the ground that follows the railroad site to the wastewater treatment facility. While the 16-inch force main is older and stands in need of some attention, a rehabilitation of that pipeline would essentially allow you a backed-up pipeline or back up an avenue to deliver wastewater flows to the treatment facility. We estimate rehabilitating that pipeline is $850,000 and would be a different project, would be something for the city to examine after these improvements would be implemented and constructed. The time to construct these items, design, at least at our firm, is about 6 months to prepare the plans and specifications for the lift station and the pipeline alignment. The construction of the pump station is about a 1-year project, so it really doesn't matter what time of year we start that. It's 12 months from when construction starts to complete that. The 24-inch force main is only 6 months, but we need to hit the 6 months where it's not raining. Okay, and at this point I'll take questions, but just as far as questions being up, I've got a map of our study's recommended alignment to from the site at McFarland and Live Oak to the city's wastewater treatment facility here for review.
Comments from council?
Yeah, how close is that new subdivision, that county subdivision? It's in by our old Live Oak wastewater treatment plant. How close is that to any of this?
Fortunately, Bill Forrest from my staff's not here. Kurt, do you know where that subdivision? Help me out, Bill. Okay. I'm sorry, Bill is here.
The county's already approved that subdivision, haven't they?
It went to the Board of Supervisors. They're in the process of preparing the rezone agreement and stuff like documents such as that, final conditions of approval. I believe it's going to the Board of Supervisors, I think next week. I would have to check. There's the development in question called Live Oak Estates is this boundary right in here. It's on the, let me get it right, west side of Live Oak Avenue, west side of Midway Sargent, north of Live Oak Avenue. There's another development that's not reflected in this aerial photograph, which is a development called Saddle Creek, and that's the one, if the force main follows the current alignment, they mentioned 8 backyard easements.
That's not good.
That's over in there.
So again, how close is it? Is it going to border on the force main?
Correct. In fact, that's why I went to the Board of Supervisors to the conditions of approval as recommended by county staff did not accommodate this planned development by the city, so I got easements associated with the force main going up Midway. I also got notification requirements of whoever buys a lot knows that the city is going to be potentially placing a pump station on this site as well as a force main going up Midway.
So how would you have access to that?
This is would be a public right-of-way.
And it was selected, that's ultimately to be a public roadway.
Okay.
Current right-of-way all the way. Ultimately, there will be.
If you go to the circulation element of the adopted general plan, the circulation element identifies Midway Sargent as being improved all the way up to Twin Cities Road.
Are we actually going to cross, whoever buys those homes, are we going to cross their backyard, or is it like how close are we to?
Again, the force main will be in the public right-of-way of Midway, so it wouldn't be in their backyards. It would be within public right-of-way that we condition that development to provide.
Just a clarification. Once this alignment, as council accepts the report, we're moving forward with this alignment, then they will start the final design. We know it's going to be somewhere in the street. We haven't determined exactly which side of the street. If it's on the west side, it will be along this development. It's our intent to put it within the public right-of-way, under the paved area, could be in the utility easement, but we are asking if it, for some reason it has to go outside. We'll talk to the county, look at their utility plans, their master plans of where their lines are going to go, and try to do something that accommodates all uses.
Okay.
So we anticipate it being the public right-of-way, not in their backyard.
You don't see that as a problem.
We don't see it as a problem. We do not want it in anybody's backyard. That's why we want to put it here.
Neither do I. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Don, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I'm good.
Mr. Meredith?
Yeah, actually, I had one specifically. Can you describe what the process would be to actually rehabilitate the existing 18-inch line?
Tracy?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We would put a liner inside the pipeline. It would be basically, it's almost like putting your arm through a sleeve, I guess. You basically push a liner that would make the interior diameter of the pipeline slightly smaller, but it would basically create a pipeline within the pipeline.
Okay. How reliable is the liner that would be put on the inside?
They have about a 20-year lifetime.
Okay. How bad of a condition is our current pipeline in?
The pipeline itself is not in that bad a condition. The problem we're having is with the fiberglass couplings. Those are failing. We haven't had one fail in the 4.5 years I've been here, but just prior to coming here, we did have some failures. And so the plan is to, long-term, to look at some type of rehabilitation, whether it be just internal slip liner. They also have what they call pipe bursting, where you actually break the pipe as you pull a new line through it. And there's all kinds of calibers and grades of what we do that with varying lives. It's something we would look at as a long-term project. The intent is to provide some redundancy. If we want to take this line down for maintenance, we'll be able to push sewage through the old line while we wanted to shut this line down and do the work. It's something that we'll have to look at as we go further, the cost benefits of doing that. But right now we're suggesting this be kept as a future project versus tearing out the old force main at this point in time.
So you couldn't actually do the liner process, obviously, when the line was still operational. It would have to be after we've created a redundancy.
Correct. That's correct.
Thank you.
Darrell, we didn't mean to pass you. Did you have a comment or?
No, obviously this has been really critical for us, and
Right.
so it's very helpful to see the analysis and the options we have before us, and we'll go from here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, staff. It was an update and information. So we will move to our next item.
Okay, utility services rates, 2010.
Good evening. The next item before council's consideration is the revised rate schedules for water, wastewater, storm drainage, and solid waste services to be effective March 1st, 2010. At the February 2nd meeting, the staff presented a recommendation to maintain the current rates for the utility services. This recommendation was based upon the relatively small amount of the CPI change for the upcoming year of minus 0.5%. Also, the relatively small reduction in solid waste cost of minus 1.85%. The recommendation was presented in order to maintain rate stability and to offset future increases. Council, though, reasoned that since we had used the CPI increases for past utility rate increases, then we ought to follow up with the CPI decrease of a utility rate decrease with the savings passed on to the customers. Staff has prepared the revised rate tables in accordance with council's direction. They're included in your agenda report, and we'll go through those briefly here. The proposed water rates, the 0.5% decrease has been applied to all water service rates. For standard residential flat rate service, the rate will drop 11 cents a month from $22.98 to $22.87. For wastewater service rates, they're also included in the agenda package. For standard residential service, the rate will drop 13 cents a month from $25.81 to $25.68. The 0.5% decrease has been applied to all wastewater rates with the exception of the upgrade fee. This fee has not been adjusted upward by the CPI. So in accordance with the council's direction, we did not reduce that. As such, then that rate will remain at $25. For storm drain, remind council that the city is divided into two different tiers for storm drain services. The majority of the residential customers are Tier 1. These were established pre-Prop 218, and they've not been adjusted. They're at the current rates. That's $2.43 a month for standard residential service. The Tier 2 rates proposed for the next year are included in your package. The 0.5% decrease has been applied to all Tier 2 stormwater usages, and that for residential service drops 3 cents a month from $6.43 to $6.40 a month. And lastly, solid waste service rates. In accordance with the agreement negotiated with Cal Waste, I believe in 2007, the proposed rate adjustment is actually a 1.85% decrease. For standard residential service, this equates to a 43-cent drop per month from $22.93 to $22.50 per month. Staff is recommending that all of these rates be effective yesterday, March 1st, to coincide with the full billing cycle. There is a direct fiscal impact associated with this rate decrease. Overall, it's a 67-cent reduction to the typical Tier 1 residential user. That's, again, per month. This will bring the total monthly bill to $98.48. There are estimated revenue reductions both in the current year and in future years associated with this reduction. Those are included in your agenda package. The revenues reduction in solid waste will be offset by a direct corresponding reduction in cost from the service provider. However, there is no necessarily automatic reduction in cost for the other service funds. Staff will be making efforts to reduce costs over the next 4 months of this fiscal year, as well as the next 2 years relative to reducing budgets to accommodate this reduction in revenues. Approval of the rates as presented is recommended, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Comments or questions from council? Barbara?
I don't have any.
Darrell?
Nope, sounds good to me.
Don?
I'm good.
Andrew?
Nope.
Ask for a motion. I have no questions.
Move to approve staff's recommendation.
Second?
Motion's been made and double seconded. Any further discussion? None? Call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed. Communications? We have none. We will adjourn to redevelopment agency. Roll call, please.
Board members Payne?
Here.
Claire?
Here.
Haynes?
Here.
Meredith?
Here.
Shelton?
Here. Public comment?
I have no speaker sheet.
Information consent agenda items. We have 3. Would you read those, please?
Item number 1, approval of the minutes of the meeting of February 16th, 2010. Number 2, approval of the redevelopment agency warrants. And number 3, acceptance of the treasurer's report for the period ending January 2010.
I'll move we adopt the agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. No further questions or comments. Call for the vote.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed. I vote. Adjourn and reconvene back to the Galt City Council. City Clerk's report.
Thank you. First item, the city clerk's office received a resignation letter from Michelle Fry-Spray, who was a member of the Galt City Council Youth Committee. She was Councilmember Haynes' appointment. We advertised, I want to say 4 times. Yeah. It's a lot. And did receive 1 letter of interest from Valerie Van Horn. So at this time, we ask that Councilmember Haynes make an appointment to the Youth Committee or give direction
Okay.
to staff.
First of all, let me, Valerie, or rather not Valerie, but Michelle Price-Spray, I really want to thank Michelle for having taken on this responsibility and putting in her time. It's very difficult sometimes to get volunteers, and we really appreciate what she's done for us. And having said that, I have received a letter of interest from Valerie Van Horn, and I have spoken to Valerie, and I am agreed to appoint her to this position. I appreciate the fact that she's willing to step up to the plate and take on this responsibility. So Valerie's not here tonight, but have spoken to her. She's aware of it, and I want to thank her once again. And I think it's great that we've got some more volunteers in the community.
Very good.
Okay, and a couple reminders. On March 10th, the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting will be held here in the council chambers. at 7 p.m. March 11th, the Planning Commission meeting here in the council chambers as well at 6:30 p.m. A reminder to everybody, our council meeting of March 16th has been canceled and moved to Tuesday, March 23rd. The Beautification Committee will meet in the City Hall Community Room on March 18th at 3:30. And there is one change to the calendar that was that went out with the agenda. The Public Safety Committee bi-monthly meeting will be held on March 22nd. The calendar showed March 24th.
Right.
So that is a change, and it will be held at 7 p.m. in the community room at the police department. Thank you.
Comments by staff? Gibson?
Just a few briefly, and council members may want to comment on this one as well. We had a meeting last week with Assembly Member Joan Buchanan, which was appreciate her coming out, and we expressed various ideas and concerns about, particularly about the funding at the state level and the actions of the governor and the legislature and so forth. So I thought it was a productive meeting. Just as a reminder to council as well, I'll be in Washington, D.C. the week of March 15th, actually 3 days in March 15th, with Councilmember Meredith attending the National League of Cities. We have meetings scheduled with our legislative representatives out there. We're hoping to lobby for some funding our way and other things that will be of benefit to the community of Galt.
Very good. Any other
comments?
No other comments by staff? No? Okay. Vice Mayor Payne?
I attended the State Call meeting in place of Councilmember Claire, who is out of town. We had a terrific speaker, Dr. Stephen Levy, and he spoke on the economic situation. And of course, there wasn't much good to say, but this is kind of interesting. He believes that we're going from households to housing, and to explain that, households are now doubling up because of unemployment. And the question is, how long will that last, which will directly affect the housing market. What do the age changes imply? He was saying that there's going to be a big spike in senior citizens, which is going to affect the housing market again. Those seniors will be looking for something smaller lots, maybe even moving into infill projects. He has a chart that shows more foreclosures will continue, and the idea is, can builders provide new housing at current prices? He was very, very interesting.
Hey, Barbara.
Yes.
Before you move that, did he give any insider information on the commercial real estate as far as foreclosures go?
He didn't really. He talked mostly about residential and how the economy was going to be affecting the housing industry. I think the foreclosures, I think we've witnessed that foreclosures on commercial is pretty high as well. And there's inventory there as well as in homes. So
Did he suggest that at a given time in the future when he thinks things might level off from his
he
perspective?
said he expects us to go back to the same type of growth that we had in the year 2002. And that will last at least 2 years. He actually said from 2 to 10 years, depending on the unemployment rate.
Before we start to see it start again.
Mm-hmm.
Could be that far.
But he didn't see it going down, just sort of flattening off to the type of growth we had in the year 2002. It's very interesting. Thank you for asking. Also, I'm now going to be on the first 5 advisory committee. We have a couple of projects here in Galt. I'm hoping that we can continue to benefit from that program. Attended along with the mayor and board forum, and I'll let him talk about that, and that's my report.
Okay. Councilmember Claire?
Just a couple quick things. I met with Pete Evich, and I'll be meeting with Lundgren's staff. This will be my second meeting with them. I already had about a half-hour meeting in my last trip here with Sandra Wiseman, their head legislative person on our requests for this year. and be following up on that. Also, I wanted to let folks know that the SACOG committee meeting scheduled for the 8th of March for climate change and quality won't be held this month. We don't have enough agenda items for that. Other than that, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Haynes?
Although I'm not going back this year to DC, the National League of Cities, I'm really glad that you've made that decision to go. It's really beneficial for lobbying for money, but it's very educational because of all the other people you meet, and they always have great opportunities there to learn more and share information. So I'm really glad you're going. Barbara Payne and I attended the architectural review for Walmart. I thought we had a rather nice turnout considering the subject, and I hope people understand that we weren't there approving the project. We were just simply there making a decision on whether or not they met the qualifications. I thought that was excellent. We also received a letter from one of our citizens, Gene Davenport, and this is on the issue of an ordinance, local hiring ordinance, and this is an issue that came up a few meetings back, and it was brought forth, and it was something that I totally agreed with, and I still support. And he was asking that this issue be brought under consideration in order to put this as an ordinance on the November ballot, and I'm in agreement with him. So what I'm going to do tonight is ask that we place this on the next agenda for consideration.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know if Don, were you through?
I just want to make sure.
Oh.
Did you need any other information from me on that, Steve? Is that fine?
Fine.
Okay, I think that's going to be a real benefit, and I think it's something I'm really disappointed that we passed on it. But I think under the circumstances with the high unemployment, and I think it's something we need to go back and revisit. So that's all I have.
Okay, Councilmember Meredith?
I just wanted to reiterate what Jason said. The two of us will be going back to Washington, D.C. I believe it's the 14th, 15th, and 15th, 16th, 17th. We do have meetings lined up with representatives from Congressman Lundgren's office. We will certainly reiterate once again the fact that the City of Galt is appreciative of the federal funds that we've received from the lobbying efforts in D.C. through PDIVich, and especially through the hard work of Dan Lundgren in Congress. So we'll also be carrying the messages from the rest of the council members about what we've deemed to be important in terms of seeking federal funding. So we think it'll be a very productive trip. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I did attend the meeting with Assemblywoman Buchanan. It was very informative. Good exchange of information. Got to know some of her feelings are, and she's kind of in our side, but we understand she's also a one vote. Attended the mayor's forum with actually Jason and Vice Mayor Payne. Same information that you had given earlier about SACOG. The one item that I found very enlightening was that if a city has some businesses that are being built, and I think we were one of the few, that was a big plus. It's something that you can look forward to because there are so many cities, it's just nothing. So that was, I mean, it was only like this much, but it was a nice little plus because there are very few in the state or all over. I did have the opportunity, this is the second year in a row that I've been invited to the Boy Scouts of America, and this year was them celebrating 100 years of scouting. I found it very enjoyable. It's actually this one was for PAC 84, the Blue and Gold celebration, and for them to be continuing the adventure and celebration. There were 8 DANs and 54 scouts that were acknowledged, and I thought that was very enjoyable. And with that, there was probably about, I'm going to say almost 300, not just parents, but families and friends, uncles, aunts, grandparents. As an old scout, I appreciate being invited to that. So I just want to remind all the council members that we will not close the meeting. We're actually going to reconvene back into closed session for maybe about 15 minutes or so. Okay. Thank you, everyone. will come out if there's anyone here and give a report. And Daryl, we'll call you back just real quick.
Okay, thanks.
Turn it off. Can you hit on off?
On off or off on?
Off. He's off.
On off.
Hit the off.
He's off. Oh, I got that. Some badges. Yeah, I think I have them with me. I didn't think of that.
I know it's a challenge.
I think that's all, yeah.
Yeah, that's horrible.
No, I we were start meeting, that's odd. I have them. No, they said my son.
Yeah,